That was one of the happiest moments of my career, I would say. Because when you're kicked out of the locker room, there's some people that wanted people to see that I was kicked out of the locker room and would change like in front of. I found my own like locker room, which was usually in like a broom closet or like in the back or wherever, but I didn't want anyone to see me. And it was like 6 months. I think it was even longer than that.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Dang. It was a long time.
Because I think at that time, I think the whole thing went down, and I don't know all the story, but it probably started in a live event. And I think at that
it did start at a live event. I ate a piece of chicken over someone's bag, and the way it was brought to the attention was that I was in the locker room throwing chicken everywhere, right? And it was like, I remember, and I kind of dismissed it, I guess you can say, and it probably wasn't the wrong way to do, right? So the person walks in and goes, oh, you're eating chicken over my bag. Like, oh man, I'm sorry, you know, and then another person walks in, oh, you were eating chicken over his bag. Oh yeah, and I knew what was happening. So I literally got up and left because I saw oh, it's gonna start going here to here to here, and then it's gonna go. So let me get out of here. I apologized, walked out. And then I remember we used to watch them on VHS tapes, our matches back. Remember that those days?
Yep.
And so I was watching my match back and I just hear, wasn't you. And I got yelled at, probably the worst I've ever been yelled at in my entire life. And I didn't get kicked out there. I was yelled at. And then that night I went to Chili's and got a gift card. And I gave it to the person. I was like, so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, eat chicken over your bag. Like, blah, blah. Oh man, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. The person that yelled at me goes, yeah, chewing on a straw. I think you need to be kicked out of the locker room just for live events. Okay, sure, no problem. Let me get out of the locker room. There we go. And my heart sank, right? Then the next day was TV. I see the person chewing his thing. Hey, you're kicked out of the locker room, TV, and this. I go, okay, yes, sir. Didn't have to go to court, by the way, which I was shocked. I was ready. I was like, oh, man. Oof. I had my Jack Daniels ready. Like I was ready to go.
It may have behooved you to go to court.
Oh, my God. I don't know. But yeah, then I would find places to go, and then the person told me, you can come in when I tell you you can come in. Something happened to that person, and that person went away. And so I had no way of getting back in. So I was like, oh, man. So I went to the person I ate the chicken over. I was like, how do I get back in the locker room? You're still in the locker room? I go, yeah. He goes, I had no idea, man. You should talk to Taker. I go, okay. I go, I've been kicked out of the locker room. Oh, you have? You knew. But you were like, oh, you have? What'd you get kicked out for? I ate a piece of chicken over a person's leg. Oh, you did? I'll get back to you on that. And then I was like, oh, man. Oh, so I waited till the end, and then I think you probably forgot, but I walked up and was like, Mr. Do you think I could come into the locker room? And you were like, you're back in, kid. And I was like, oh. I remember driving with Punk, and it was like Ryder and Brian Myers and Hornswoggle. We'd stack like a caravan. Oh, man. Swoggle would be in the back.
Did he ever drive?
We'd have no.
Because he got that pedal thing.
No, he would never drive. He would always sit in the back because we had to fill bags, right? And he was the only one that could fit in the back. And so we would put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in, and we had 5 bags, that we'd have to. And we were literally, and we'd all stay in the same hotel. We'd get he would always take the cot, and so it was always way cheap. Honestly, I spent maybe $100 a weekend. That's how much we were able to split it up between all of us.
Oh, Dylan.
But yeah, I remember being in there and being, guys, I'm back in, man. I'm back in.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. So I probably knew that at one point you had been kicked out, but I wasn't doing live events at the time. I was only doing TV. So a lot of things, people always are under this impression, oh, he was locker room leader. He knew everything. It's like I'm Don Corleone. There's a lot of times things happened, and then they get filtered to me later. And then you find out too, a lot of times people would go, oh, Taker's going to be pissed. And I have no clue about
Yeah.
whatever.
But you got to understand the mid card and undercard was always like,
Yeah.
like it's Taker. But also, you I don't think you understand your aura. When you walk into a place, your aura is it's even like whether you still feel like Undertaker or Mark or whatever. When you walk into a room, your aura puts people towards you, and it literally you could either scare a person or you could or you could be the nicest person in the world.
I try to tell him that at home.
I don't think you probably don't know, because most people with that kind of aura, they don't get it.
Yeah, but I'm literally not trying to be funny. I tell him that at home too. I'm like,
Notice everyone in here going,
"Oop."
Yep, yeah, everyone.
See, I'm like,
Yeah.
if you don't say anything in the mornings, like it changes the whole mood of the house. And like you don't even mean to do it, but it's just your. This is
Yeah.
Craig. What's he doing now?
Made a lot of people uncomfortable. I'm eyeballing everybody right now.
Everyone literally went, yep, he's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Some people just they can smile and then they look like demented.
Diminished.
I'm not saying that about Mark. I'm saying like he can have this look on his face like he will rip your head off
I know.
and crap down your throat.
But I remember laying in bed one night and at like 2 a.m. you called him.
Oh, when
And-
Vince ribbed me?
I don't know which time it was, but I
I
remember
bet
thinking
you that was it, because like I went nuclear. I think I blew up and killed about 30 people
I was like,
in
what is
Des Moines,
happening?
Iowa.
Now, just to be clear, I got more than one of those phone calls from you through
yes,
the years.
That's what I was thinking.
But there was one that was just on a whole nother level.
Yeah, that was the worst one.
And he was but my Mark was so nonchalant. I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Mark's about to kill somebody." I had to talk him off the ledge there, and I was like, "Oh."
He
So
tell
see,
you,
God
he
was
tell you what
protecting.
happened?
Which time?
That time, Vince ribbed me in the ring. Like I went out, I was supposed to wrestle Sin Cara, and they said, "Hold on a second, like he's got a knee brace issue." And I'm looking at Scott, and I'm mad at Sin Cara now. I'm like, you mean to tell me that he back there all this time and he can't get his knee brace together? And I'm mad. And then they play his music, and he doesn't come down. I said, man, what's going on? And then they play Rey Mysterio music. All right, guys, this ain't funny no more. Then they play Vader. It's time. It's Vader time.
Nothing.
Not happy. Not happy at all. Then they play something else. And by then, now Scott Armstrong is begging for his life. Mark, I ain't have nothing to do with this. Like this, hey, this is them. And I'm hopping. I get the microphone. I said, give me the microphone. And this was the final straw. I said, listen, guys, this ain't funny. These people paid hard-earned money. Like, we're going to give... They cut the mic off.
Shoot.
I threw the mic down and started power walking. Vince and all of them run, get in the limos, and they drive off to the airport. All the TVs in Gorilla had a fist print in them. All the tables got broke. The operating board got broke.
Was it completely cleared out at this point?
Yeah, wasn't nobody up there. I just started stomping stuff. Just, and you know those metal, like the push doors, you got to push the thing in the middle. They had one of those doors in Vince's office. I was so mad that I didn't want to push it. I kicked it and missed the bar and hit the support, and it ripped out of the concrete.
I have no doubt.
Ryan Ward, poor little Ryan Ward was in there.
Oh no, little Ryan. Not
And he was
Ryan.
like, Mark, it wasn't me. It was I didn't do it. They went that way. Like, he did not want no smoke.
He snitched real fast. He
Oh
said they
my
went
God,
that
poor
way.
Ryan. And I run out to the parking lot. And you know, for me to run,
Oh, you're mad.
I'm mad. And I see the limo driving off. Oh. And I'm just so mad. And I just, called Vince on his phone, cussed him out, told him I was gonna kick his ass. When I saw him, I'm done. Like, you can keep this. And I went off. And the next call,
That was
Number one in charge. Hey, boss, I'm done, man. I'm done. And I didn't say those words.
Yeah, there was a few
There
more
was-
expletives.
It was
that
some,
were-
definitely some expletives in there. And I was not happy. And I went home. That was the worst I ever felt in wrestling. Like, I mean, I had people say racist things. I had people that was just deplorable people. Everything you could think of.
but embarrassing. It was embarrassing.
Because it was me.
Yeah.
I did nothing but try to make the business better.
There was a night in Montreal. That was,
Montreal.
yeah, we won't touch on that.
What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
A lot.
I know.
A lot. A lot. When you wouldn't speak to me in Montreal, you're mad at me.
Why were you mad at him?
I don't know.
Hey,
Look at him. Listen to him.
What?
Is there any
Hey,
doubt why I'm
he-
always
he-
mad at
He
him?
was mad at me. He wouldn't talk to me.
He was pouting?
Oh, yeah. Big,
Why?
Ooh, big pout.
What
big
happened?
pout.
Big pout.
Yeah.
Oh, that Montreal.
Yeah. That
Oh.
Montreal.
Oh, that Montreal.
That Montreal.
Yeah, that y'all man, that was bad.
What happened?
He was mad at me.
You ever heard Montreal
ha-
Screwjob?
what?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, that Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, well, okay,
Yeah.
that's a story we could tell, actually. Because there are two
I mean,
sides to
it's
this.
been told a lot. But
Okay, but not okay. There's different sides to this, though. So, Montreal, Brett versus Sean, Survivor Series.
yeah,
You were off TV,
I was.
but you were there.
I was there.
So, what do you do when you're there? You sit next to me at Gorilla.
Yeah.
All night, sits next to me at Gorilla. The last match, Sean versus Brett. You're doing we did these walk shots all backstage, which we didn't do a lot of back then, but we do them for special matches. I tell him, say, hey, you need to leave because we're going to do this shot. Once I get in the ring, we're good.
I needed to leave.
So he leaves. He doesn't come back. So everything takes place out in the ring. I'm there sitting duck. I don't know what's going on. Watch everything happen. Did not know.
You didn't know anything?
Did not know.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm getting to you, big boy. And everything happens, and I'm pissed because I don't know.
Right.
Everybody comes back, and I'm walking back, and I go back towards where Vince's office is. And there's a giant red-headed basketball player with his arms crossed, staring daggers at me. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and I'm like going, you knew.
I didn't know.
Okay. And you look at me, and he looks at me, and he looks at me, and like, you knew, and you sent me away. And I'm looking at him going like, you knew, and you're guarding Vince's office. Big boy. Yes. So there were two sides to this.
Okay. Yeah.
I
So
thought
now-
you knew.
I did not know. 100% did not know at all.
That is
So then-
wild.
You went down to the dressing room.
Yeah.
I went Vince's office.
Yeah.
Then
That I was, for the record, I was not guarding. But yeah.
For the record, I didn't send you away for that. I thought you were going to come back and join me.
Yeah.
So now there's the misunderstanding there.
A little bit.
Clearly.
Okay. And so now we come back, and actually this is one of the coolest things I'd probably ever seen. Was the only cool thing in the moment that night was when we entered the dressing room. The only people that were allowed in the dressing room were those that were in the match, and you, me. I think Gorilla was there, and Shane.
Shane, Jerry, and Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Pat wasn't there. Pat was
wasn't there?
not there. Sarge was there. So, but we go in, Ken Shamrock is coming out, and guys, Ken Shamrock went to Vince and said, "You need me to stay, boss?" And Cool Hand Luke over here goes, "Get your bag, get out." And went by, and there were people sitting in the locker room and says, "Get your stuff, get out. Get your stuff, get out."
Clearing it out.
And there are no questions asked. Everybody, they all got out. So now the next day, it's a little heated, a little tense. Somebody's not showing up. We had a basketball game to play.
Got a basketball game to play.
So now, like coming through the door,
Late. Late. It was late.
late. I thought you said wet because you may have been at that point, but it was like you kind of kicked in the door a little bit. You made yourself known that you were there.
A little dramatic entrance. No.
Very dramatic entrance. So he walks up, and it was me, Jack Lanza. I don't know if Vince was there yet, but you shook Jack's hand, and I stuck my hand out, and you just stared at me. And then Vince came up, and he stuck his hand out, and you just stared at him. Didn't shake his hand. And Vince walked away, and I said, you and I need to go talk. And he said, I don't think I have anything to say to you. And then we went and we sat down over where they had the bleachers and stuff backstage. And we sat down, and he just starts in on, you knew. And you set me up, and you sent me away, and blah, 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 blah. I said, you were guarding Vince's office. Says, what are you talking about?
I had to go away, so I went to Vince's office so I could eat his catering. That's why I ended up in Vince's office.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, then we both felt kind of stupid.
Yeah, it sounded like a big
But
old
he was
mess.
mean to me. Michelle, he was mean to me.
I believe that.
You were. There's two sides to every story.
This is true.
Two sides.
Yeah, there's.
The right side?
I mean, theoretically, we were both on the same side. Only
We were.
in
It
different
was a
places.
misunderstanding. We both thought the other one knew, and I don't think anybody trusted anybody at that point. And,
Oh, I bet.
And with everything going on,
It was pretty tense. That was a pretty tense night.
it was pretty tense.
Yeah.
Pretty tense. Then we kissed and made up, and everything was good. He's a good kisser, by the way.
Yeah, he is. I can attest to that.
I got to go back. So we got to where we're at. I got to go back to WrestleMania 29, which I've heard from your end of it was kind of one of those days that happened that really let you know.
Was this when I got cut in Gorilla?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
The
you got
worst.
cut because me and Punk we went longer than we should.
I never blamed you guys though. There was a P. Diddy performance as well.
Well,
geez.
yeah.
Oh,
but-
geez. Let's blame that. We were blaming P. Diddy, put it on the
P. Diddy's
record like
gonna-
it was his fault.
I felt horrible because I got to see you a little bit in passing.
Yeah.
Of how disappointed and
Yeah, I was
hurt that you
destroyed.
were
Yeah.
that you didn't go out, right? And
I remember you
just wanted to
saying
make that
something to me
walk.
about that, about seeing him, and you were, and that was the point in your career where you'd come back and you were flat for however long after
Yeah.
the match. But I remember you saying something like how, God, I feel bad. Like I saw Cody, and
Well,
he did.
When he told us we were cut, when Vince said we were cut, everyone had a different reaction. We're talking about how you react to the money, right? My reaction was one of the worst reactions. I think I wanted to fight. I was because it wasn't, we were in Gorilla.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
kind of knew sometimes you're too smart for your own good. I kind of knew the general outline of the rest of the show. I'm thinking, really? This is a 3-minute match with 90 seconds of walk. And I couldn't get off him. And there was somebody like, all right, we'll do it tomorrow on Raw. And there's like this false positivity. And I thought, well, obviously I can't and won't fight him. I'm just going to go sit under the stage. And that's where, and I was just in full gear sitting under that stage, which is MetLife, by the way.
Right.
Which is where we're talking about the John Cena match.
Yeah.
So-
wild. Oh, look,
Hey,
yeah, I think
full
I
circle
think
moment
yeah,
right there,
I made
isn't
up
Hey,
for
you know,
it. I
you're
know.
like, yeah. I very much needed that though, because again, like that period of time, a couple things. You and Punk had gone longer than whatever. The times were different then. They were very, but also I'm pretty sure Total Divas was filming for the purposes that the match was always going to get cut. And I've asked Nikki
Oh,
about it, and
no
I've asked,
way.
to this day, like, hey, did you know? And they all like, no, and I actually believe them in a sense that they didn't.
Yeah.
But I think, no, I think this might
Little
have always.
storyline for.
Exactly. And as a wrestler and storyteller, I would have liked to have known. I would have gone
Little
about this.
heads up.
Yeah, a whole different way. You don't learn this until later and you get more experience, I suppose. But I did learn that a lot of what I was mad about during that period, a lot of it was fixable. I think I needed to fully pull the Band-Aid. I think I needed to, you say burn the boats. I needed to do that to figure out all the things I wasn't doing. Because as time went on and, working on our own alternative promotion and trying things, I realized how like delusional the wrestler can be sometimes.
But that doesn't take that sting away. Like when
No,
you
it
finally
never
get
will.
that little moment, it's like, oh.
No, it never will. I mean, even to this
Yeah.
day, that sets you in a place where you're still thinking about times and you're still and I guess it's a good thing in that matter. But that was WrestleMania.
It was tough. So 94 SummerSlam. It's going to be Undertaker versus Undertaker, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I had taken some time off to heal up and do some things, but the whole summer was focused around trying to find the Undertaker.
Yeah, Leslie
Right?
Nielsen.
Leslie
right?
Nielsen.
Yeah, of
and-
course.
yes. So, he was a riot, by
Yeah.
the way. He was incredible. So we finally get to DiBiase has the new Undertaker, and we go in, Chicago, go in, and Brett and Owen worked before.
In the cage.
Yes. Right
Okay.
before, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But they were right before us and went over by like 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
We had 3 minutes to pay off the whole summer.
Yeah.
And it was one of those deals. It was just like,
And you're locked in. This
I'm
is
locked in.
94 times.
Ye-
Pay-per-views cutting off if you guys screw
yes,
this up.
yes,
Ooh.
yeah. They padded, they would give, I think they had like a 5-minute pad between our go home and going completely black.
Yeah.
So we did that whole almost year build up. We paid it off in 3 minutes. It was it's not a good feeling. My point to all that is it's not a good feeling. But man, I just remember the anger and the feel that I had because that was probably. Yeah, I mean, I'd worked with Hogan and I beat Hogan already, but this was like one of the really first huge build-ups in this whole process, and then to get ripped out from underneath.
For what it's worth, we were really happy when we got 3 minutes.
There you go.
I'm gonna let you out of here in just a second, Michael. But you made some statements here recently. It's got quite a bit of furor amongst the wrestling world, and that was your comments about Chelsea Green. Like, how did you put it? Like, her job is to get
Her job is to make the Tiffany's and the Charlottes. Now, I've talked to Netflix about this because when we did that interview, and I recall this specifically, that when we started the interview, the first thing I said was, Chelsea is as good or as talented and entertaining as anyone we have. But of course, that never saw the light of day. That was on the cutting room floor because if you're going to make me a heel, that's the best way to do it, to say she's not good enough. And that's not really what I was saying. I don't regret what I said because her role at the time I said that, and even right now, is not the top role. It is to help make other people. And as you know, we all know that we're only as good as the people that help make us.
right.
Now, with that said, if Chelsea caught fire because of this following and the support that she has, we'd go with that in a heartbeat. Look at Daniel Bryan. Look at Kofi Kingston. When they both caught fire,
Yeah.
we went with it. Whether some people up top agreed with that or not, they went with it because that's what the people wanted. We're not there right now with Chelsea. And quite frankly, I feel, just my opinion, that the people that support Chelsea now, if we started pushing her, would fade because she was getting the push from the machine. And if she's getting the push from the machine, then she doesn't need my help. because intricately, I feel that the fan loves it when they know that their support makes a difference and can change a career. You take a look at NXT, you know, especially back in the Full Sail days. Those people knew that their support had power because it could change or make the start of someone's career. It's still that way to an extent at the Performance Center. And you see people get behind people that the office isn't getting behind because they feel that they can make a difference. They can make a change. Everybody wants that. Everybody wants their opinion to be valuable. But that's also the lore and why. Now, Chelsea is amazingly talented and amazingly entertaining. She can handle anything. But that's the role she's in right now.
Not necessarily her fault.
No, not necessarily her fault, but to her credit, she knows her role and she does it and she plays it with a smile.
I'll just say, I'll put my 2 cents in. I think she's underutilized.
I agree.
I think she, without a doubt, with just a hair more mean streak, I think she could be. I could think she could be a top player. She has that thing, that it thing.
She does have the it factor.
She has the it factor, and I think there's a lot of great things coming for that young lady. I'm a big fan of hers.
I am too, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, can't tell really. But hey, there's certain organizations around that know how to use her. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, you got to go south of the border. You got to go south of the border. Well, I'm just saying. No, I was just curious because that's got a lot of attention.
Yeah, it has, and you know, it is what it is. I spoke what I felt to be the truth. All the truth I said was not out there. That's okay. I told you before. People have hated me since the beginning of time. And if you ask me a question, I'm going to try to tell you the truth. And that's the truth. And even with you saying that, I still fear that if we get behind her, it hurts a little bit of that rebel push that she now gets or support.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yep.
Yeah. So I heard that your first kind of exposure to wrestling was with ECW.
Oh, God, yeah, that was right after the Olympics.
Right.
I got tricked into that. So I'm going to tell you what happened.
You got tricked.
Okay.
Damn Paul Heyman.
Douglas calls. I don't know how he gets my number, but he calls me. He says, listen, Kurt, we have this new wrestling. It's kind of identical to your type of wrestling. It's real.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm listening. He's like, well, you know, we want you to come to one of our events and be a guest and commentate because Taz is going to wrestle Little Guido in an amateur wrestling match. I was like, okay, I can commentate that. So I'm watching, you know, the amateur wrestling match that they're having, and they're saying the scoring wrong. You know, like Taz took him down and it was like 2 points, and then Guido got up and escaped and said 2 points. And I'm like, no, that's a point. You know, so they weren't exactly getting it right. And so
did you correct them?
No, well, I did. I did because I was on TV.
Right.
Yeah, obviously, I'm going to correct them. But then what happened was Sandman and Raven had this match where it was a crucifixion match. And listen, I get it now, but back then I didn't get it. You know, here I am, a Christian kid, a believer of God, and they're doing a crucifixion where Raven's up on a crucifix and Sandman's crucifying him. And I'm like, no. And I looked at Paul Heyman and I said, listen, if this airs on the same night as me, you're going to hear from my attorney. So and you know what? Sandman, stupid bastard. Sandman, he thought I told Paul for him to go out and to apologize. I never told anyone to apologize. I just didn't get it back then.
Right.
Okay, because I did see a crucifixion with, I'm not going to lie to you, somebody else did it one other time.
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
It wasn't a cross.
No, it was my own symbol.
Yes, it was your symbol.
Now, if you looked at it in the way that it was a crucifixion, I'm just saying, I was just making an example of someone whose sins may have crossed my line of. But anyway, might we digress there a little bit?
Okay, we will digress. But I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
And you know, I sent a message to Sandman on a social media saying, you know, if you have a problem with me, you know, do something about it. And I shouldn't have said that. He knew that I didn't tell Paul to apologize. And he knew that I was an Olympic gold medalist, never been in the business. And the first thing I see is a crucifixion.
Right.
Of course, I'm going to freak out a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that would freak. Yeah, I would see where that would freak you out a little bit. Yeah.
So let me ask you. This is one I've always wanted to ask you. Is that okay?
Please.
No.
Well, I don't know. What is it?
Please, yes.
Hang on.
No.
Yes.
No. But again, remember. You know, I can remember the. You know, the time that I asked you, like, hey, like the story that I heard, like you were going to beat me up after WrestleMania, or no, the one WrestleMania with Steve and all that.
Yeah, that's my question. No, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say, like, but like, what was the real story? Because obviously we never saw each other that day.
Right.
I never, and because it's one of those things. So, and I don't know if you know. So it was, again, I was doing a book, and the guy goes, "Hey, is it true that?" You know, WrestleMania 14, that the Undertaker came up to you and he was taping his fists and said he was gonna, you know, if this doesn't go down the right way, he's gonna beat your ass. And I was like, I don't think so. I said, I feel like I'd remember that. And then I said, I didn't see anybody that day, except, you know, Hunter and Steve. And so anyway, and then it gets out like, whatever, that I was lying or whatever. But I can remember going and asking Mark, because obviously at that time I thought maybe this was one I forgot, but I feel like I remembered that. So I came back and I asked Mark, and I was like, hey, I had this interview with this guy and I'm doing the book, and this ever happened? He goes, no. He goes, I feel like if that happened, you remembered it. I said that's what I thought too. And he's like, yep. And then I hear later on that maybe he did do it, but it was after we left or whatever, and I don't know. So what's
I can tell by his face he did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I asked him. I just want because I just want to be on the record, maybe saying he was the one not telling the truth, and this is all I'm saying.
Please,
So let's
yes,
go. Yeah, here we go.
Please.
Okay, hear me out.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
So obviously, you changed
a
whole a lot, to the point where obviously we have a great relationship and a great friendship and all of that. So when you ask me about it, like, I felt really, really bad to say, yeah, I was going to stomp your ass or try at least to stomp your ass if you didn't do business. Like, I felt so bad because our relationship had changed so much, and I genuinely, as a person, cared for you. I was like, I can't say that I was going to do that. I just felt awful.
Yeah.
So I did. I lied to you straight to your face. I had every intention if business wasn't done, something was going to get done. However it turned out or whoever got involved. I was dead set on doing absolutely something. But by the time you asked me, our relationship had. Not that our relationship was ever bad, but it was just, again.
But I never saw you that day.
No. But you know how the locker room is. And, it's like, man, I don't know if Sean's going to do it, or
Okay, I got it.
So that's how how it festers.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well, that's what I was just saying, because they made they said I was just trying to remember, like, did we have, because we didn't have.
No, I had already worked. I had already worked. I worked with Kane. And I'd worked and I'd gone back and done everything, and then you and Steve had gone out, and then I came back to Gorilla, and I was like, I'd honestly gotten myself worked up, like believing the goof, the hype, like shit. he's a wild card, right?
Yeah,
I don't
was
know.
gonna say at least look, because I worked very hard to convince everybody, like,
Yeah.
if I don't want to do this, I ain't got to do it.
Exactly. And
what I
then
mean?
you take
You can't
that
make me.
and you spill it in that locker room at that time.
And I will say, right, I would say that I was, at least at that time, I was, right, at the very least, a wild card.
At the very least.
Easy, right?
Yes, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
not a stretch.
Right.
And then everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. Took the tape out. I went back, but I was gone before you ever got back.
Yeah,
And
okay.
And look
was-
at you owning it.
I am.
I appreciate
I have
that.
changed.
You
Well,
have
no,
changed. He
I've
used to
changed.
be a liar, and now he's an honest man.
there's a few times.
But no, but it was one of those things where because I've tried to fess up to the ones, like this. Again, I always go like the Rock one. I've asked Hunter like many times, like, have we ever been in a fight, me and the Rock? And he's like, no. I even asked you, like, Johnny, you remember like me and the Rock getting in an actual fight? Yeah. So they're just hard. I mean, I don't, because again, there are ones that I
Right.
go like, I don't know, maybe it happened, but I feel like the big ones, again, like this one, especially with Marco.
You remember.
I'd remember those. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
no, I wouldn't, and
Those
I
are the
didn't
ones
do it.
that-
I obviously I had to be at Gorilla because if it was going to happen, it was going to have to happen. But I wasn't like I was, it wasn't like the big pantomime in the,
yeah.
so everybody could see. It was just like it was a subtle thing, and I think somebody, I don't know if it was Bruce, but somebody picked up like, "What are you doing?" I was like, and at first I didn't say anything. You're like, well, why are you? It's like, just got just in case.
Yeah, I got you.
And but that is the truth. Yeah, that was my intention, and I felt so bad when you asked me that time. I was just like, we've come so far.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to.
yeah. We would never look again because I believe me, nobody knows that they were tough to deal with more than I do. So, and again, look, I'm always the reason I had said it because I said it to the guy. I said I feel like because that just like that wasn't his style.
Right.
You know what I mean? He was not Mr. Overly. You know what I mean? Gregarious.
Yeah.
I felt like, but if Mark had done that to me, I'd remember that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it wasn't. Because I feel like, if he'd have done anything, I feel like it went. When we'd just have a little private conversation, he'd have whispered in my ear like, "You don't do this, I am going to beat the shit out of you."
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Got it.
Well, you know what? If I'd have done it that way, I think it would. If you even had those thoughts in your head at that point in your life, I think that would have put you over the edge. Like, how are you doing it? I'll take the ass kicking.
Look, I will say this. I was even saying that to the guy. I said, look, they didn't let anybody get to me that day because of that. Because I was so, and I guess that's all I'm saying. Trying to make people. I always try to tell people, like, I'm not trying to sound like I'm tough. I'm not tough. I was just so I didn't care.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I felt like I had nothing to lose. So I would have just done, anything.
Right.
I mean, it just wouldn't have. I don't know, because there are times like, if you can catch me and beat me up. I don't care. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. It just didn't seem like, I mean, it's like I know him well enough to know like he'd have handled it way differently. I think. But I think to your point,
it was such and two, it was such a. It really was such a vital part. Or a time in the business.
Yeah.
Like it had to go down like that because you were injured, and
for sure
you were going away. We were hanging our hat on about to hang our hat on Steve, and it was just such it had to happen
for sure.
So
and that's the thing. Like I had it's one of those things where like in your mind you're like, of course I'm doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I just knew like that was the one I needed to make them pay and sweat it out for him. That's how immature and childish I was.
That was the whole.
time.
That was the whole day. Like that was because it was you were in your you were in your locker room. Paul was running back. Pat was running. Those are the only people that come in and out of your.
First time I've ever
dressing
had
room.
my own locker room.
Yeah, it was, which pissed everybody off too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, all of it. I mean, it's the perfect storm, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like the boys being the boys. Everybody's chirping. Right, and everybody wants to see you fall at that in that time period. But there was just that element in the dressing room. They want to see you fail. They want to see you suffer. I mean, it was just part of the culture, and it is what it is. Yeah. It's better now. It's different. I think
for sure. Yeah.
But again, it's just like
Yeah,
it just
and it was a wild day. And again, I was so prideful in that respect. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't. And it did poor Hunter running back and forth all day, and it was just so. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the
inside skinny.
That's
on
the
that.
inside
There you go.
the inside skinny.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, it's funny because I remember you asking me. I remember the day so clear. Not the day of the table, but the day that you asked me.
Yeah.
And I felt bad. Like crap. Why did? I was like, surely he's in a different. He'll understand. But I felt so bad that because again, it was just our relationship and where again, that wasn't on my bingo card in the early
exactly.
90s.
Well, the other thing is we're
being
bebopping. We're walking, I think, back from catering, if I recall, or something like that. I was like, hey, I'm just out of the blue, because it was, again, one of those things that you're doing, you're doing a book and you're meeting with the author and stuff
Right.
like that. And one of those things that, because that was one I'd never heard.
That's
You know what I mean? And
News to me.
And yeah, so
Oh my
that's good
goodness.
stuff.
Yeah. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Yeah. Now my conscience is really clear. Anybody ever called you a coward?
Oh
Liz?
my God, every day. I mean, honestly, like in WWE, yes, many times. I mean, I feel like that's
like
the
in
standard.
particular, maybe.
Oh, you've called
Daniel
me a coward?
Bryan?
Oh, Daniel Bryan. Oh, shoot, we're getting there.
I know. Hey, look.
You thought he was calling me a coward? You thought he was calling
So
me a
here's how
coward?
I do that one, right? So I remember, I've been called a coward 1,000,000 times, right? 100 times.
Okay.
When he called me a coward, it was a different end. It was different.
I would say so.
It was, I knew what he was saying. And I was like, all right. And so, yeah, I blacked out. Like, I don't black out usually when I cut promos. That was in a moment where, it's going to sound so stupid, but I was going through an acting phase where I read a book and it's like, try to memorize, like when you're happy, try to think about it in the back of your head that you're happy and what your body is doing, what you're feeling. So whatever emotion that I was feeling, if I was in an argument, I was literally in the back of my head going, all right, you're in an argument. What's your body doing? What are you feeling? Blah, blah, blah. Because I wanted to be a better actor, if you will. So every conversation that I would have, like even right now, I'm doing it. I'm like, what am I doing? Oh, okay, I'm doing this, da, da, da. So whenever I would act, I would be able to do that, right? So I remember when he called me a coward, and I remember, oh, you're getting mad. Oh, you're getting really angry. And then I remember the words coming out, and I went, oh no. And then he left, and I didn't know what to do because I was like, I thought he was going to hit me. Like I was like, all right, he's probably going to hit me.
What was the
I
difference?
thought it was
Like
the
I
other
don't
way
know
around. I thought you were going to hit him.
Yeah, you seemed really mad.
No. I was not in. No, I wasn't going to hit him. I was going to let him know.
I think you did.
And then I was waiting for him to hit me, and he just left. And when he left, everything went off. Like I mean, I couldn't make. When I get really, really mad, I can't speak. It's my brain is going so fast and so mad that I can't get words out. So everyone's like, "Oh, it's the greatest promo ever! Oh my God!" Blah blah blah. And I watch it and I go, "That is terrible. I'm not getting my words out correctly." I was so angry, and I was not scared, but like I've never lost it like that before in my life. And I just cut it right to a camera because I found something, and then left. And
That's what I told
you
you.
ever, when you black out, I don't know if you guys have ever had this type of situation, like you walk off and you're out of breath, and you're like, what just happened? Did I just do something bad? Did I, like, you know what I mean? Like, did I not like hurt, but like, did I just say something that I didn't mean to say?
Yeah.
Or did I do something that's gonna, retaliate and hurt our WWE? Am I gonna? I get into those mode. I was there, and afterwards, everyone was like, and I remember it was the set was right in front of where everyone had to leave, and it was back in the day when people actually waited till the end of the show to leave.
Yeah.
And so people were waiting because we were filming, and
Yeah,
they couldn't.
Yeah.
So everyone was just like, I remember seeing everyone just mouths dropped, like, holy cow. I remember getting a bunch of texts, and this was on a show, by the way, that no one watched. And we were trying to get, a little like going. And I wasn't even supposed to be on the show that day. the long story short, I was put in a dark match, and I was very angry about it because it's the first match on a show, and I wasn't on the show, and I was the Intercontinental Champion.
Right.
And I was like, you're going to put me in the dark match? Like, I'm not even on the show? And then they're introducing 2 new titles. And I was like, what about this title? Like, this title meant, I mean, that title still means so much to me because it was the workhorse title. Like I remember always hearing, oh, you want to be the workhorse? You're the workhorse title. The workhorse title. It's the title that gets you to elevate to the top, and that's what I wanted it to do. And all I was doing in that era, all that title was doing was you have the title and you just lose, but you still have the title. You're just going to lose. You still have the title. You're just going to lose. Now you're not even on TV.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember I went up to Road Dogg and I was like, put me on Talking Smack. He's like, what do you want to be on Talking Smack for? I was like, he's the general manager. I'll just let all my frustrations out on him. And then when he called me a coward, everything changed.
Flip the script there.
Everything got to change. Well, I mean, Daniel's he's an immense talent. Like we know that, right? Like he is an incredible talent. But we're like this.
Oil and water a little bit.
Yeah,
huh?
man. Like, we get along, but it's like we're not going to hang out with each other.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember watching that, and honestly, as a fan watching, I was going, "Is this real? Or is this a work? Like you never know. Is this part of the storyline? Exactly.
Is it real or fake?
But I'll tell you when I knew, or when I had that real inkling of, no, this is there's something there, is by Maurice's reaction or non-reaction. She wasn't reacting, and I knew she didn't kind of know what to do. She was like, oh, this is for real. Like he is hot. So I could tell by her that there was some underlying, some little underlying issues there.
Yeah. I can get mad.
It was good to see. It was fun.
Thanks.
I remember it happening.
I didn't like the feeling.
No. Obviously, you don't like that feeling, but man, when you have that, you can tap into that.
I can tap in. So, like going back, like I can tap into that now whenever I need it.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, I know where that is.
Yep.
So it's all like there, but I don't like to unleash it ever.
WrestleMania this year.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I was hot.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it was part of the storyline. I don't know anything.
Do you hear that deep sigh?
Oh, yeah, maybe it wasn't part of the storyline. But seriously, real talk, I was mad. I was like, because you work so hard, and I know you're the hardest worker there. I'm sure you're pitching storylines right and left.
Yeah.
I'm sure storylines have been gotten used for other people because that all that happens.
Yeah.
But you're at WrestleMania.
Oh, brutal.
And how many? Was it 2 weeks before? How it was
when they took me out?
Yeah,
it was the day before.
Day before.
Yeah,
I was gonna say 2 days before.
No, it was the day before. That was an interesting, and
That's very nice of you
to be nice. Yeah, I do. It's a test. I feel like every time I get thrown stuff, it's like I'm just being tested, not by the company.
Nice
the
save.
universe and the world is trying to test me. It's like, yeah. It was rough. It was like a little bittersweet. Like I became really close with Lyra, like in real life.
Yeah.
And so like I was super excited for her to have her first WrestleMania, but it was also just like, man, I was told this is where we were going, and then we had like, okay, I'm going to be in this storyline in a tag team with this girl that I don't even know.
Right.
Like I remember first telling her like, this is what we're doing. Like, and I'm just talking about going to WrestleMania as a tag team. I'm like, don't you think that's kind of strange? Like you're the Intercontinental Champion and like, we don't even know each other. So like I felt weird about it, but throughout the time we had a few matches. I'm like, damn, we have good chemistry. Then we had this tag team gauntlet match to get to WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
We had like 5 matches in one night. It was like an hour of wrestling. And I was like, holy, like we're like a good team. Like I felt genuinely like connected with her. And like, she's one of the girls grew up, loving wrestling and a huge fan. She's so good. And that had a lot to do with it. But like, and then I was when I was told that what was happening, I was like, oh, now I'm bummed. Like for one, I'm not on WrestleMania, but for two, like we put all this work in and I really try to make us look like a team so that it's believable when we get to WrestleMania.
Right.
So it was rough, but it becoming part of a storyline and it becoming, what it is now made it a little bit nicer. And maybe I don't even know how to say it without like, I don't want to.
It's okay.
it was rough. It's definitely one of those times where I'm like I had a long conversation with Punk about it. A lot of people that were reaching out and just like, everybody's been in these positions.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully.
Yeah, but it's hard when you see people that deserve the spot. It's hard to see it happen to people that the fans want in that spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it just doesn't make sense.
That's in the moment. You think that, but I mean, all this, and I'm not trying to minimize that what you're feeling. It's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes it's not a fair. It's not a.
Yeah.
This is not a fair business at times. It can be the greatest, and then also it can just rip your heart out.
For sure, but it's also like, so I think my love and passion for this is what saves me in those moments.
Absolutely.
It's like, thank God I love this so much, because like, I don't know how people who don't love it go through with all this stuff. Like, how do you guys continue? How do you put your body through it? How do you do this travel?
Your
how do you
mind?
put up with, everything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm on John Cena's retirement tour, I'm like hanging out with these guys in the back. Like, I get to do these things and watch my friends, fulfill their dreams. Like watching Lyra do that and win the tag team championships and all that. That's beautiful. And the Rhea, Bianca, and Io having that match that weekend, like beautiful. And I do have those moments, but I feel like I need to have that piece of me that's like pissed about it, because that's
what fuels you.
I have so much more. I'm like, all right, I got a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I need to have that.
Yeah, I can relate to you in a sense. There's I beat Stone Cold for the world title.
Toot toot.
Yeah, 2-2.
Take that, Steve.
But I think it may have been 2, maybe 3 weeks later. We're doing TV, and Vince brings myself, Steve, Triple H, and Kane into a room, and he's pissed. He's like, "This isn't working." Now I think Kane, I don't remember what title Kane had. He had a title, or he was doing something. Triple H was the Intercontinental Champion. I was the World Champion, and Steve. And he goes, "Look, this isn't working. We're going to change things up." He says, "We're going to switch this title back to Steve tonight." And then I'm waiting, and I think, okay, well, what are they going to do with? I guess they're going to take the title off. Like, he was that upset. Well, basically, the only thing that was changing was the fact that I wasn't the one I wasn't getting over as the champ. So we were going to switch
working
that.
with you as champion.
So, yeah, it's exactly what he was saying. But and so I'm trying to process that, right? Because that's a blow. That's obviously a blow to your ego.
Yeah, especially to be said in front of your peers too. It
Exactly,
rough.
right? Like,
yeah.
it would have been one thing to pull me in the room and say, "Hey, look, this isn't what we thought it was going to be. We're going to put the belt back on Steve."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a professional. I can handle that. But some of the guys that I respect most in the business are in here and listening to you, bitch about all this, and all the fingers are pointing at me.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, it's the same kind of same kind of thing. Like, I left and I was like with my tail between my legs, and I was like, wow, my buddies and the guys that I work with just heard me, him pretty much blame me for,
What year was that?
I'm horrible with years, but I think it was, well, I got to figure whenever I beat Steve, unfortunately.
I'm not good at that.
That pay-per-view was
guys know those things.
the pay-per-view that we lost Owen, but I mean, it was shortly thereafter.
Yeah. So did it end up, like, when you look back at it, you're like, did it end up either fueling you or like end up in a better situation, or?
Well, it fueled me because and it's kind of part of the reasons when I did my Hall of Fame speech, when I said never be content.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, again, I was like, okay, well, I just beat Stone Cold for the world title, and then reality 2 weeks later hits me like, well, you beat him, but you're obviously not in Vince's eyes or in their eyes. You're not drawing the way we expected it was going to go. So that was a blow, right?
Yeah.
And I had to put my ego on the shelf and figure out, okay, well, you're not obviously you're not as good as you thought you were.
Yeah.
Right.